Has anyone ever been to court and had to deal with a judge? Well, it's no coincidence that a court is where sports and games are played. And when you go to a court, the game being played is the game of life. And that game is of your life. Now, court is a racket. Another thing that uses rackets is tennis. Tennis is a sport played on a court with a racket. Maritime admiralty law, which is the law of water and the law of money, is how courts actually work. All the language being used dates back to Egypt and all the way up to the British East India Company that took over the world with their fleet of ships. Now, the British East India Company, what they would do, how they started out, they were going over to China and they were buying goods off China and trying to sell them stuff, but they really had nothing to offer them other than tea. And China did everything on their own. They didn't need their tea. So the British East India Company kept coming back empty-handed. They got pissed. To make a long story short, they decided to grow poppy and start selling opium. Well, England didn't want them growing poppy on their land. So the British East India Company decided to start growing it in India. And they would take that poppy, turn it into we all know what, and they brought it over to China. And that is kind of what happened. And that was part of their massive takeover, I believe, was all based off opium and poppy. Now, the word Cana is a Phoenician word for banker. Merchant, which sounds like mermaid, is someone who makes money on the water, right? So this is all water-based. When you walk into a court, what's the first thing you do? You sit on a bench. The word bench in Latin actually means bank. Where is a bank found? A bank is found on the sides of a river. A river flows and has a currency. When you walk into the courtroom and speak to the judge, who is dressed now in a black robe, which dates all the way back to Saturn worship in the old gods Set, aka the black cube of Saturn, the great inhibitor. Saturn was known as the great inhibitor, something or someone that would hold you back and teach you a lesson. Now, judges, graduates, priests, rabbis also all wear black robes. So this is all dating back to Saturn worship, right? Now, when you get called by the judge wearing his black robe, the inhibitor, the great inhibitor, about to inhibit you from something, you have to walk through a gate. What is that gate called? That little gate? That gate is called a water gate. When you go through the water gate, you are now in deep water. The other attorney, he's trying to sink your ship by poking holes in your story, right? And now there's holes in your story, there's holes in your boat, you're sinking. What do? You got to pay bail now, right? You're going to need bail. So you're bailing yourself out, right? When you pay bail, where are you going to go? You're going to be put in a cell where you're going to be charged. You will need some money or currency, right? Maybe a liquid asset to get yourself out of that trouble and to pay your bail. Now, all these laws, this is all maritime language, all water-based language. It all dates back to Saturn worship, to Neo-Babylonian worship of gods, Egyptian moon god worship, Isis and Amun-Ra, the sun god. Now, in Old Phoenician, Saturn was El, right? So that's where you got words with El in it. Like when you become a upper echelon member of society, you become an elite. You become elevated. Electricity, right, comes from this. And this is all, you're being charged, right? You have to be bailed out. Electricity. It's all words from all of this ancient Babylonian, ancient Egyptian worship. That's where this stuff all comes from. It's quite fascinating when you really begin to learn. Now, we have been placed in a mechanical system that operates outside of the forces of nature, because the forces of nature are gods earth, everything that happens, the sun does its thing. It's never going to stop doing its thing. It always does its thing. It's always on time. It always is where it needs to be. And you just can't stop that. And these members of society that control us, they understand that. So they put us in a system, a mechanical system that they can control. And that all starts with your social security number as a baby. They get you off the rip. Now, alchemically, this stuff it's all thought. This stuff is all make believe. We have to believe in it to keep it alive. You see what I'm saying? So if we understand and we learn what these words mean, what the language means, and we begin to withdraw from that mechanical system that we've been put in, we can start to live with the earth, the natural earth that God gave us, right? This earth with the sun and all of that. And what do I mean by that? I know there are liquor stores on every corner. I don't see them. I don't see them. I don't live in a world, my perception, I don't live in a world where there are liquor stores on every corner because I don't go there. So they don't exist in my perception. I don't participate in these stores. I don't go there. Another thing I don't do, I don't drink. So I will never be arrested for drinking and driving. I will never have to go to court because I got in a bar fight. I will never have to deal with that ever. That's not in my world. That's not in my perception. I don't see that. That's not where I live. I don't live like that anymore per se. So if I don't live like that, I don't participate in that, I will not be dragged into that system because it's a system that they created, that they control. You get what I'm saying? So if we all learn the system in the words, maybe we can all avoid it, or we can all live another way, a healthier way, a happier way, a more loving way. Right, Lola? Lola knows. Lola's my girl. She's such a good girl. And dogs, they're smart. They know what's up. But learn your words. I love everybody. This is for entertainment only. Satire and entertainment. And people get so mad and worked up when I talk about this stuff. It's just crazy to me. Like another small example of words and knowing words. They just came out with a new dinosaur recently called the Nodosaur. Well, if you look at the word nodo, what does that word mean? The word nodo actually means notice. And the word notice actually means crux or crossroads. A cross junction. When you're at a crossroads, you have to make a choice. You have to make a decision. Do I believe in this nonsense and continue to believe in this nonsense? Or do I stop believing in this nonsense and I'm done with it, right? It's you have to choose. You have to choose a mindset. And depending on that mindset, that is going to really have a major grasp on the future that you're about to set your foot into. It just will, whether you're believing in this nonsense or not. I love you all, and this is for entertainment and satire.